Start the stream now. Should see it live. Live and on tour.
Live from New York.
It's Saturday night. Good morning, Vietnam.
Nice. Yeah, okay, we're good.
All right, so we're going to go in. Let's a little bit of silence. Hello out there, it's February 1st, 2017, and welcome to episode 16 of Summoner's Sift, a League of Legends podcast. Projector's here.
Hey guys, good to be back.
And I'm back. Contractor, back on the working grind, as always. We'll have him on as soon as possible. We love him. He's a great man. How you been? How's the league going?
Pretty good. Finally got out of the hell that was Silver 2. I don't know why I was stuck there for so long. But I was, so now I'm finally out of it, and I'm midway through season 1 or Silver 1. So hopefully we'll be back into gold in the next couple weeks, and then continue on to plat. How about you?
I have peaked at, let's see, I was gold 3, 75 LP, and then I had a run of just terrible games, like combination of me playing bad and getting like horrific teammates, which is always the way it goes. So yeah. I'm back down. I think I'm gold 4, like 90. I just dropped out like of gold 3. Okay. So I lost like 4 or 5 in a row, and then just like slow bled my way back into gold 4. But I had like 2 AFKs, and you know, but I also like there was like 1 or 2 games there where I just like played really bad. So surprise, Camille is actually pretty good. and very difficult to beat, and Renekton is not good again, which is real sad. Yeah. The Colossus nerf hurt him hard, and like he was my top laner, so I've been playing more Rengar top, but Rengar top is super feast or famine, so you either like spam feed or like just obliterate the game. So you know, I've been riding that roller coaster, which is interesting.
But that level 1 though is hilarious.
It is pretty funny. Yeah. We're talking about that Lux that decided to come to the land of the knife cat, right? Like,
yeah, so yeah, you guys don't know this, but we played a game. I played Nocturne jungle, and Benson played Rengar top. We did this like 4 games in a row and just popped off. Yep. But one game they took Lux top against his Rengar. Like
that was not a good experience for that gentleman. I queued him twice from the bush at level 1 and like did like 75% of his health.
It was so entertaining to watch.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. People don't respect that level 1 Rengar damage. Like I've got a lot of level 2 first bloods on Rengar and level 1 first bloods, like more than I've ever had. He's back to sort of that old, you know, dominance in the top lane, like where once he is able to, like, if he's able to do what he wants to do and you don't understand what to do against it, which is like he camps that front bush and like zones you off the wave and then just jumps to the minions he needs to last it. If they don't know to like just stay away from the wave or drag it away, like you just obliterate them, like, because they can't do anything. It's pretty funny, but yeah, the only problem with it is he doesn't have a ton of escapes. I mean, he's got more than he used to with the W, but
well, they're changing that, so
yeah, they're gonna change. They're gonna take everything that I have grown to love away, and just make him, you know, the Garen of the jungle. You know, I think the quote that we just read was, you know, they're gonna take away his mechanical skill and make it decision-making skill, which literally removes him from my playlist completely, because that's like the worst thing that I can do. I don't make good decisions. I push good buttons. I don't make good decisions.
Yeah, so, if my decision is to kill them, if you won't let me make that decision, then I'm not going to play you.
If there's a decision other than attack the guy, like, I have a problem. So, although the funniest thing is I actually play a really legit Janna. Which is really weird, because all she does is run away. So it's a mystery of modern life, I guess. So Warwick is out.
Oh yes.
He's been around. How have your experiences? I'm not going to say anything, but how have your experiences with
So
Warwick been in the games that you have actually seen him?
I think here's how I feel because I've played against him a few times, and how I feel is because he doesn't have any CC to really abuse necessarily. Like a Camille stun or something like that. Like he's got the fear, but like everyone that's playing Warwick has no idea what they're doing. Maybe they do now after a couple weeks, but really they haven't. And so I've been able to just like duel them with no health left and kill them whenever I want because players don't know what they're doing. They just are like, ooh, rework champion. So I think he's strong. So I should just play him. And then they lose terribly, horribly. Uh, when I have against my 200 game Nocturne, their one game new Warwick fails miserably. But I do feel like he's got a lot of potential. I think he's got a lot of strengths. And so I will say I think he's a little bit overtuned once you know what you're doing with him. But I also I think he's one of the more I struggle to say balanced, but one of the more fair reworks I've had to play against recently.
I think I agree. I think the kit itself is balanced. Like I think what the kit does and how it's trying to do what it does is fine. I think his numbers are overtuned because I've actually had very different experiences, to be honest. Every game that I've played with Warwick, and they've been rare because he's frequently banned. He is like just completely obliterated the game, like where he was just so crazy fed that it was like absurd. And the guys that I'm seeing are going like Red Smite Cinderhulk into Titanic Hydra for the most part. Like so sometimes blue,
Yeah.
but mostly red. And so what they do is like, so they get the Red Smite early so that the level 6 is strong. And then because it's going to apply the on hit,
Yeah.
and he does a lot of damage. I think people are sort of like not used to what he does yet. So I think what's going to happen is like this champion will be really weak at higher MMRs because once you understand that like, hey, if I'm low, I can't just like hang around. He gets so many free kills though, where it's like all those situations where your bot lane, like maybe they shove out the other bot lane and like, they have a little bit of a tussle and like, the other bot lane has to leave and like they're left and like they're pushing the turret and they're both at like 30%. Like Warwick is very good at like going down there and just killing them both. And so I have seen Warwicks frequently get very, very fed in games where, but the thing is, if he doesn't, in games where people understand like to play safe, like so in low kill games, Warwick is never fed. Like he just doesn't do anything and like he's sort of useless. But in the games where the comps sort of line up and like he is like that lifesteal is real. He is
Oh, it is.
he's impossible to 1v1 just like he used to be. Except it's maybe more so now. I think he's actually harder to 1v1 now. Once he's rolling.
Yeah, and it's more frustrating because like before you'd think you could 1v1, but he would still have like a lot of health and like he could go tanky.
Yeah.
Now it's like Warwicks have less health and they still can destroy you, so it tricks you even more. You think like, oh yeah, I can kill him here. Yeah, no, you can't.
It's because
no,
he's like he's weirdly bursty. Like he has like the Q. His damage is weird. Like it's very like it's not like the old one where like the old one he would push like the Q would come out of nowhere and like save him, and you would think you were gonna kill him, and then suddenly you were dead, and you're like, what just happened? Like how did I die? The new one, like you feel like, well, this is pretty even. Like what's going? And then really it wasn't, and you kill him and like the fights don't seem as close, I think, because it's like he lifesteals so much so quickly. It's like that you kill him and then he immediately like is full. Like it feels like every time like he gets in a fight he's immediately like sustaining back to full, which I think is what they want him to be, right? And I think there's a lot of that too is like once he starts snow rolling or like snowballing, people aren't buying like executioners or morellos, and which hurt him a lot. So I think personally, I feel like it's the perfect rework, right? Because he's interesting to play. He's cool. He's not hard. He's strong, but he's not like abusively strong. I think they did a great job with him. I mean, I'm very impressed. So.
I I'm still in awe of thematically how well they did with him as
Yeah.
in the champion design. And like I'll be clearing my jungle, and if I drop below half health and I hear that sound, and I'm like, and I panic, even if I'm level 1 or
Yeah.
level 2, right? Like I know that he's not there. Like I still panic inside, like a little bit. Like I gotta get my health back up so he doesn't know where I am. Like I'm gonna die here.
Yeah.
Like
I've
there's
definitely
that
seen
fear.
a lot of that, and
Um,
I think he's cool. Like he also like he kind of does what you expect him to do, which is like he comes out of the jungle and then he goes like 1,000,000 miles an hour at somebody, and like it's just like a flurry of like wolf and claws and all of that. I mean, I think it's neat. I mean, there's definitely a lot of outplay like with the ult and stuff, so he's not abusive. It is frustrating that his ult is very frequently used as an escape, which is kind of lame. I've seen that very often.
Yeah, and
it's like
I will say, at least if they do use it to initiate, there's a lot of it really is a skill.
I think you got muted, buddy.
How did I get muted? That's crazy.
What happened?
No, I'm still.
Oh, maybe I can't hear you. Maybe it's me.
Can you hear me now?
Maybe I'm the problem.
Maybe it's you. I think it's you. What is going on? What? I haven't changed anything. I don't know what's going on.
Let's see. I can hear me, so we're gonna have to cut
can you
that
hear
part
me?
of the recording.
Can you hear
Talk
me?
real quick?
Yeah, I'm talking. I'm going.
That's my headphones.
I'm talking. Technical difficulties.
Hello?
Hello?
Hmm.
Can you hear me now? Well, this is a bummer.
Give me just a sec. Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
How about now?
Can you hear me now?
What's going on? No! I can't hear you for some reason. What is happening?
That's really weird.
Hold on.
Can you hear me now? How about now? Now? What about now? How about now?
There we go. That is crazy.
You can hear me?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Okay, so that's
funny because my audio was coming through on the stream the entire time.
Yeah. And mine was too, right? I just couldn't hear you. Like you were totally
weird.
gone. So that's what 13 to. Did you mark the time?
I'll have it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean it'll be me. Going,
It'll look weird. Yeah.
Well, actually, it'll look the same because I yammered on for.
Yeah, no, I won't worry. No, it's fine. Don't worry about
That's so weird.
Yeah,
I could probably cut that out of the vid too. So yeah, I mean Warwick is really interesting. I think he's really cool.
Yeah, and here's what I love about his ult. It's a skill shot, and I feel like it actually is a skill shot with very clear rewards. When he fires it off, like it's somewhat easy to land, but there's difficulty to land, and it's punishing when you miss it.
Yeah.
And so I really like the way they did his ult. And it takes a bit to get used to it. Like it does have a learning curve to it. So I was very impressed with how they did that as well.
Yeah, I think he's awesome. I mean, I A+. Good job. Like,
yes.
love it. Just like the Scion rework, another great rework. Very impressed with what they did with him. So
talking about reworks, we have more coming up.
Yeah, so like here come the changes, right? Like
yeah.
So I mean the tank updates are coming. They're going to rework tanks, which is kind of odd because I'm curious to know like your thoughts on this. Like, do you think tanks are like in a bad spot? Like, do you think like these types of tanks, because what we're talking about is League is the next champion update or the next class update, like they did Assassins. They're going to be doing Vanguards, which are the tanks that they consider are like initiators. So some of the champions are like Malphite, Amumu, Leona, Zac, Gragas, Rammus, Gnar, Mega Gnar. They only list Mega Gnar here, which is funny. Sejuani, Rek'Sai, Sion, Nautilus, and Skarner. Which is weird because I feel like they just touched like some of these champions, right? Like Skarner, for instance. Like, hey, like he's a juggernaut, right? Like what? Maybe they're reclassifying Skarner.
Well, those are just the champions in it. It looks like they're going to choose from that pool who's going to get their updates.
Okay.
So it looks like I know for sure 100% Rek'Sai is on that list. But I don't know anyone else for sure who's on that list. Maokai was mentioned by name as well in the dev blog. Mm-hmm. So I think Maokai and Rek'Sai are two that are for sure going to be involved, but we don't know exactly who it is yet.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting because I don't necessarily feel like these champions are in a bad spot, which is kind of, I think some of them are sort of weak, right? Like, I don't know that Sedge is very good right now. Like, I don't think Rek'Sai is really... I mean, although for pro play, Rek'Sai is still good, but I don't know that Rek'Sai is in the greatest spot. Gnar has kind of disappeared. Gragas, obviously, like, when he got nerfed, like, everybody got away from him. Leonas are... Like, the support ones are probably the weakest, right? Because Colossus, like, that nerf them really bad, and the mage supports are very good. But, it's weird because... Maybe they're just like systematically going through these, but it's strange that they would prioritize these.
Well, I will agree with at least one thing, and this they said on the dev page. They said we do want players to feel like the more they play a champion, the better they get at that particular champion. Right now, many of our tank champions have the flattest mastery curves in the game, and I like that. Playing a tank, really, honestly, it's boring. It's super boring, 100%. and I get it. Like, you're a tank, like you take damage, but like I like there being some things to learn. Like Rek'Sai taught me a lot about flash combos, mm-hmm. and taught me about really wise decision making with cooldowns. But at the same time, Rek'Sai, literally once I knock them up, I just sit there and auto attack them nonstop, and that's
just
it.
Auto and push Q and fire.
Yeah, like
Praise Seeker occasionally, or a bite. You know,
Maokai has some more options in a team fight because he's got his W, he's got his Q, he's got a couple options, but
he's very binary still, though.
But yeah, he's still. So I like that they're trying to make that class more attractive to play from a skill perspective, mm-hmm. Which also means that when you tank right, you're being rewarded for it more as well.
Yeah.
So I like it from that perspective. I don't know that this was worth over a different class right now.
I wonder if the reasoning behind this is that they want to do this in the middle of the season because it's not that important. Like, it's not as critical.
Okay.
So, like, maybe they're like, well, these champions aren't in that bad a spot, but we want to touch them. So, like, it's in the middle of the season. You know, we don't want to do a huge rework, like, because, like, the Assassin update included, like, changes to the, you know, armor pen and, you know, different items, like, rework all these champions. And, like, I can see them not doing that on the tank champions because they don't really need it, right? Like, so maybe this is good timing to do that in the middle. And, like, these are champions they have to be really careful with, especially, like, tanks, because tanks, to me, are always the ones that feel the most frustrating to play against, because it is super frustrating to play against somebody who does a ton of damage and, like, you can't kill. Like, it is really uncool. Like,
well, and here's, okay, so, but But here's what they've said. I agree with this, but I also wonder about them doing this in the midseason. This is we also want to take a real hard look at defensive items and how the entire roster, both tanks and non-tanks, engages with them. We want tanks to get a much greater benefit from tank items than other classes so they can correctly play the role of being the tankiest champions in the game. So really what they're trying to do, I think, here is just better define the tank class. So you don't have champions like Rek'Sai that were meant to be a diver playing as a tank. And you're not seeing champions like Echo, who are meant to be an assassin, played like a tank.
Yeah. I mean, I think that makes sense. I think what happens, though, is when you... It's going to be interesting, because when they try to do this with support, what happened? Like, what happened is you got other champions using those items and being good. And like, if they go that same route of like tweaking the items, you know, making the tank items better, make them more attractive, you know, things like that, what ends up happening is you get other champions buying them and like dominating in the role, right? So like what you'll have is like, you'll get weird junk like Tank Zed, or, you know, and I'm just throwing that out there, but like, that's what will happen if you try to like goof with their item. So I guess what you have to do is you start, you know, tweaking champion kits to get like benefits from armor. And I mean, some of them already have stuff like this, like Malphite, for instance, like where he's gaining more from armor than others. Rammus.
It sounds like they need to make some sort of, like, to me, it feels like they need to scale with resists. And I don't mean scale with armor or scale with MR. I mean, like, actually scale with resists.
Yeah. But also, like, what ends up happening when you do that is you get like tanks who do percentage health damage, like Sejuani. Like, the more health she has, the more damage she does, and that like leads to like that champion being very tough to tune, because if anybody remembers, like, there was a time when Sejuani was like clearly the best jungler in the game. Like,
yes, like
clearly. And like, I feel like we're sort of seeing that a little bit with Zac right now, where he has like been good for a long, like for literally a season, and very strong, and like he's been good for a long time, guys. And like, that's because they've got that sort of health is damage sort of mechanic happening. I don't know. I'll be interested to see what they do here, because I don't personally feel like tanks are in a bad spot, like game balance wise, but they are super boring to play. So if they somehow manage to make these champions like more fun to play, I'm all for it. This is basically the champions that I learned to play the game on. You know, this is who you used to play in the jungle. Was champs like Sejuani, Rammus, you know, Zac, Amumu.
I'm really not excited about what they're doing with Rek'Sai, since they've, you know, given out some of the information, and it worries me about what they're going to do with the others. But I'm hoping they give them some clear identities at least. Yeah. I'll be interested to see what happens. Obviously, we won't see it for a while. At least not until after Spring Split is over of the LCS. So, I mean, we'll see. But I guess I don't know how I feel about this. I really don't. Like, Like, I'm glad that they're going to try and make it more rewarding to play a tank, but I don't know.
I think it's fine. Like, all right, sure, let's see what they do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to pass judgment on this one yet until it really comes around, and it's just interesting. It's an interesting choice of timing, but I guess you have to do it eventually. And if you were going to pick a class to do in the middle of a season, I think this is probably the one to do it, you know?
I would agree.
Because, like, tanky comps are still going to need tanks, you know?
Yep.
You just might make them a little bit better.
Yeah.
Although, like, you know, hopefully we don't have a Garen Darius Mordekaiser situation, you know, in the middle of the season where they're just all crazy broken. And
I'm sure the first couple weeks of LCS and pro play will be interesting. After this for summer, but
very interesting. So, you know, a couple of interesting pieces from that dev blog. I mean, this dev blog is huge, so I highly recommend like taking a look at it. But like, you know, they're gonna mess with Evelynn. They're gonna mess with Galio. Galio's next on the list.
We will get Galio before the next new champion. That is confirmed.
Yeah, so I'm really interested to see what they. I have no desire to play Galio like ever. Because I think Galio's like just crazy boring, and like never been excited to play Galio. I have like even no matter what his kit does, I just have no desire to play it. Like, he's just super boring to me. But I mean, it's good that he's getting a rework because clearly he's not interesting. And messing with Eve is going to be interesting. That's going to be. They've reworked that champion a bunch of times. She is the rise of the jungle. So I'm interested to see what they do there. She kind of got. That's a long storied history with that champion.
I don't even care if they don't change her kit. I just want her to look better. And like the model,
a visual, like just take away the whole BDSM nonsense that they've put on her. Like, it's just weird, and like there's not really a place for that in League. Like, I get back when they made it, it was like funny and like, but like, all right, like we're good, you know, like we don't, you know, like it doesn't make for good skins. It doesn't make her interesting. It doesn't make like, it's like just take it out. Like, she doesn't need to run around in high heels and like, you know, okay, whatever.
Agreed.
Say. So, they're reworking Urgot too, which is interesting. You know, he's on the list. Man, Urgot's another one. I don't know what they're gonna do with that champ. That's a weird.
They just figured it out too, like what they're gonna do with him. Like I love how they describe this. Urgot is like the poster child of champions with confused thematics, kit, visuals, and narrative. He's a ranged character with a knife hand. He's a marksman that's also kind of a tank that swaps himself into the enemy team. He's Noxian, but he looks like he's from Zon. Like, I love, like, he's just a walking contradiction.
He really is, yeah. I mean, so he's a cool champion. I hope. I mean, I hope they keep him mostly the same. Like, at least thematically, I like Urgot in the game. You know, I just think that like his champ, like the actual playing him is just like so lame, because Urgot's either like incredibly weak and like useless, or like the most frustratingly broken champion to play against ever. Because like, man, when he is good, he is so good. And you know, when he lands those missiles and like you can't fight back and they're like flying across, it's just not cool. Like, not, and you can't kill him because he's crazy tanky and like he's just annoying. So lots, you know, they're working on a lot. They're doing a lot of work on the game currently. Yeah,
they are. And I love that at least they're, even if they don't come to the same conclusions I come to when I play this game, I love that they're being transparent about their thought processes, what they're wanting to do and their goals. Like, I really appreciate that from any company, but especially a company that's just creating a game. Like, I really appreciate Riot's communication a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've really a fan of like the way that they've ramped up the communication. Has been really good, and I'm just impressed with what they're doing right now. Like, just good times. Good job. This has been a good season. You know, I'm not a huge fan of plants, but you know what? They didn't hurt the game as much as I thought they would. So like, fine. You know, I was wrong. Like, not a big deal. Not a fan still, but like, okay, it wasn't like as super annoying as I originally thought it would be. That just kind of haven't messed with it as much. No, you know, so it's fine. So Courage of the Colossus got nerfed again. How's that been treating you?
Well, I've been playing Nocturne, so not treating
not
me
at all.
anything at all.
So it's better.
So yeah, I'm fine. I kill everyone now, so it's great.
Yeah, everything's great now, right?
Yeah, no. So I haven't noticed it because I haven't been playing the champions that utilize it, but I like that. I like that it has more clear trade-offs now. For early game versus late game,
it was
team fighting versus solo landing
before. Yeah. So I mean, that brings us to a good, like, tell us. So you're back on the Nocturne. Like, the Nocturne man is back. He's bringing darkness to everybody, right? Like,
yes, I decided I was getting really frustrated with a bunch of losing streaks and everything, so I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna start playing Nocturne again, and until I get back into gold, and then I'll diversify my stocks again, my champion stocks. But I was playing the Blood Razor builds and noticing that, like, it was great when I was playing against a bunch of tanks, but I wasn't really enjoying it outside of that. So I have decided to go back to the Warrior build. And so I've been going Warrior I've actually been doing Blade of the Ruin King because I love the attack speeds that comes with it and the lifesteal. And then I go into Yomu's, or I'll go into Guardian Angel, depending on what the route of my build is. That's what I try and do. And I just, it's re-taught me a lot about how I've been initiating and how I've started to handle my team fights again. So it's made me think about the game again. But I just destroy people, and I've been hard carrying games straight up, just taking off. So it's been really good. I've really enjoyed it.
That's awesome. I mean, like, that's a lot of times that's kind of what I did too. Like, once I've kind of been playing it, like I kind of went back to basics because I was hitting like some frustrating streaks, and I was like, God, like I can't win. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna play Rengar. Like, because I know how to play Rengar, and like, so I just started playing Rengar, and like everything was fine again. And like, you just kind of have to, like, there's that, we say all the time, like, you need to, so you need to, kind of like go back to basics and get rid of like the actual thought process of, making decisions and stuff. Like, you just need to be doing, like, all you need to be thinking about is, like, macro and not the micro, like, which buttons to hit and stuff.
Yep, exactly.
I think, like, that got accomplished very nicely with going back to those champions. So we have a special appearance.
Yes, a late
arrival. He's back.
And he just muted his microphone.
And he just muted his microphone.
And I'm back.
Contractor BK201.
He made it.
He made it. We apparently we should have given him the benefit of the doubt and actually like asked him to record. So, well, but hey, he's here. And we actually, it was funny. Right before we started recording, we said, "Gosh, like we really wish he was here because we really want you to answer one of these questions." So. And all we talked, to be honest, all we've talked about so far is jungle stuff.
Oh, great.
So
I missed none of the important stuff.
So you skipped all the important stuff, like all the stuff we actually care about. Other than, okay, so what I do want to, like, real quick, what do you think about Warwick?
So which part do I think about Warwick? Do I think about the jungle Warwick, or do I think about the Koreans playing support Warwick? Which one do I think about?
Wow, I haven't heard that. I didn't know they were playing support Warwick.
Oh God,
this is why we value you.
That's why we need you.
This is why you're here.
So
okay, so they also played support Camille, so I'm not really sure what's really going on. Otherwise, his numbers are just high. I mean, he feels really strong. I don't know if because his quick speed is basically really horrendous, and his damage until he gets a lot of items is like not spectacular either. He is virtually unkillable though. Once that man gets 2 items, he becomes another Maokai, and then once he gets 4 items, he actually just does damage. Kind of has the same access to the same thing as well. So I think he's very, very strong, but he has to scale because his early game is not that great.
It's not good. I know that's that's actually the experiences that I've had with him are very like he either gets rolling and he's like an unkillable, unstoppable, like dealer of death that you can never fight ever, and he'll get like 15, 20 kills in a game, or he never gets rolling and you just never see him ever. Like he's like not a non-factor. He doesn't exist in the game.
You know, honestly, in the early game, he feels a lot to me like the way that Nunu, where like Nunu's gonna run up to you and he's gonna snowball you, and from that moment you're dead. But it still takes him 30 seconds to kill you.
Yeah.
Before he gets items, Warwick does the same thing. Basically, he hops on you, he does some damage, but then because he has like the movement speed with the blood scent, as well as being able to hop on you continuously afterwards. That's basically what he does. He's gonna kill you, but the tower has to be down, and it's probably gonna take him like 20 seconds. If not longer than that.
Here we go.
Yeah, you're like,
Nunu
throws the first snowball, and you're like, well,
I guess I'm not getting away. I'm gonna get slapped to death. Like, where Nunu's just gonna walk after you, slapping you for 5% of your life. So this is gonna take 30 seconds, but he's gonna get me eventually.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's super frustrating. I mean, he does. If he's built with like Titanic Hydra and like out of the jungle, he does a fair bit of damage. Like it's sneaky how much damage he does. But he is, it is real hard to kill him until you have
just
like
I thought,
Morello's or an Executioner's Calling. It is real hard to kill him.
Yeah, that damage reduction is insane. Yeah. Like that combined with his ability to heal off his ultimate whenever he's life as well from his passive. it really takes an effort to finish him off. Like when you get him low, you have to finish him off. Otherwise, he's just going to sustain quite a lot.
Yeah. All the fights with him. One of the comments that I just made was that all the fights with him feel like way more lopsided than they actually are, because you like fight him and then you almost kill him, but then he like finds one mob and he's at full life, and you're like, what? He just destroyed me. Like, what just happened? And then really it was a lot closer than you think it is. So it's he's interesting. You know, they just need to tweak him a little. But overall, like, are you happy with the rework? I think it's really he's definitely cooler than the old Warwick.
Oh yeah, and like you guys were discussing a second ago, he's like one of those tanks that's actually like, I think Galaxy is a really good example of what they want to do with tanks.
Yeah.
Where they have like mediocre to okay damage in their game. They don't really do. It's not really their job. They scale with some items, but then he just has an interesting kit. But he's just a tank now. That's just what he does.
Yeah, I wonder.
You're not gonna see that guy one shot anybody.
You know, I wonder. We were trying to figure out, like, so we were also talking about the Vanguard update and like why they chose this time. I wonder if they finished the Warwick update, released him into the wild, and were like, man, this is what all the tanks should feel like when we play them.
Maybe.
And then they were like, you know what? Let's see if we can make that happen.
Yeah, because when you guys were discussing, that's exactly what I started to feel like. I was like, man, they did a really good job with Warwick, and he's a tank, and he's interesting to play. Like, why can't you just do this with all of them? And I hope that this particular update is giving them a little bit of insight how to do that properly.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I don't like getting one shot by fucking Gragas the entire game. He builds 3 HP items and he just hops on them and I die, and I'm like, why?
I remember your hatred of Gragas. Like, I'm very aware. Before they goofed with his R and like made him basically a non-champion, Gragas used to be Contractor's like #1 most hated champion. He hated him. Like,
Flash body slam.
He would
induced so much rage.
Like every game, like, because he couldn't stand him. So, well, don't worry. You know, he's in the dumpster. and like, apparently they consider him a tank, so they're not going to make him like a caster again, which is
Gragas is interesting to play. Yeah. He's just not very good.
He's just not very good, right? I don't want the way to make him good is to make him do like a lot of damage, and then we go back to where Gragas was.
Yeah.
Against, so
yeah,
which is funny.
They just need to take a note from Warwick and make tanks about what they're supposed to do, which is soaking a lot of damage and disruption. You're not supposed to kill people.
Yeah, I agree. I'm in for that. But
I think that's what the Koreans used them for, as support. Because that damage reduction is gross. Yeah, like, you can just sit there and hop on people, and they like, it's just whatever.
They just take it.
Mm-hmm. I think Camille was mostly used as support, probably just for the solely the ultimate, just because the potential on that ability is just insane. Like, they literally cannot get away.
Yeah, it's crazy support. It's the Wild West down there in the bot lane currently. Camille,
it's so dumb.
Warwick and Brand. And
Ziggs ADC,
Ziggs ADC, Cassiopeia the AP.
Everyone is good in that lane except for ADCs.
Yeah, exactly. Or the one that can actually kill tanks. But even like now the tanks are sort of leaving the meta, she's not that good. So it's like, oh well. Oh, all right. So I'm glad that you were here so that we could get your. I would have never known that people were playing support Warwick.
Yes,
that is just awful.
I mean, I don't think they're supposed to be, but they are.
By the way,
I play this game for a living.
Before all of our listeners write us in to be like, you guys had this really awkward part in the middle, right before Contractor joined. That was because Contractor was joining, and we were distracted.
Yeah, we were distracted because we were like, oh, try to get him in the thing. So like, we tried to be as seamless as possible.
But it did not work out very well.
Professional radio men. We apologize. So all
right, let's jump into these questions.
Yeah, let's get to these questions. So you want to read the first one?
Yeah, I will read the first one. This is the one that we wanted you here for, Contractor, so you can leave after this if you want. I don't care. I'm just kidding. Summix writes in. He says, thanks for giving feedback on my question last time. I enjoy hearing your responses. Congrats, Benson, on gold so early in the season. Let's ask a question toward a role you guys don't usually play. The whole community is in an uproar because ADCs are no good until late game. Regardless of that, Why are people building Runan's Hurricane first or after a BF sword? I've wondered this for a while now, and it's very, very common. Seeing a Kate or a Jinx, quote unquote, while being ahead, buying Hurricane first when the enemy ADC is getting a BF sword or even a Ghost Blade. It's a big odd thing to me. Can you guys explain why they are doing this? I have my speculations, but I'll let you answer the question. Thanks, guys. Good luck in 2017. Go Platinum. All right.
Okay.
Why are people doing Runans?
I have an answer for it too, but I want to hear yours.
Yeah.
This is a really good example of doing the correct thing when you're ahead in your lane. So if I am winning the lane and I take my tower first, what do I want to do next? I want to go mid, I want to go top lane, take those towers too. Hurricane is the best thing to do so. If I'm no longer going to be laning because my opponent's so far behind, they're no longer either going to trade with me. Hurricane is just so much better than a BF sword because it helps me push faster. I don't care about having a BF sword if I'm not fighting anybody. My objective in the next 5 minutes of the game, since I already won my lane, is to go and kill another 2 towers. And Hurricane just does that so much better than a BF sword ever will. Plus, you also have the potential of team fighting because the tower went down, so now you guys can see the AoE actually really matters.
Yep. So that's a really good point. Like as an ADC, what are you trying to really do in the early game? And you're trying to push down towers because your team fighting is terrible.
You're trying to not die and
do
anything useful. And what you're good at doing is clearing waves and killing towers.
and here's the thing: like if you're an ADC and you're trying to get to the late game and you're trying to survive and get your items, the best way to farm the fastest is to do the most damage to the most minions as quick as possible. Runans lets you do that. BF Sword or Ghostblade, I mean, I don't know why Ghostblade's on there, but BF Sword will let you attack 1 minion, but you're not going to attack it faster, and you're only going to be doing damage to that 1, while Runans lets you push and farm faster, which means you can go down. If you've lost your turret, or the wave is pushing against you, you can go down and push that turret out, get all of that farm that you need, and get back to your team as soon as possible. Runans just gives you so many more options and gets you to your item objectives a lot faster.
Mm-hmm. Like giving you access to push that lane to be able to go and leave, push it so much faster than they are, so then you go to mid tower. And then it allows you, because they obviously do not have a Hurricane, you can go back once the wave is pushed back into your tower, refarm it, repush it out, and they can't you take care of it that quickly, so you're always going to have a person advantage. So you won that lane, and you're now taking that advantage instead of sitting in the lane and basically waiting for your jungler to gank whatever, because they have no tower, whatever you're taking it and turning into an actual tangible advantage by going to mid lane and like 4v2ing the mid laner and the jungler and pushing that tower down as well. And a lot of times they won't have access to either the wave clear they need to stop you guys from killing the tower, or to prevent you from just flat out diving them or just aggressing them off of it.
BF Sword, Infinity Edge, some of these single target damage items don't give you enough as an ADC early game to justify giving it the pushing power and the farming power. If they did, you best believe people would be building them first like they used to. But right now, with the state of the game, the state of ADCs, Runans is the best rush item after you get a BF Sword.
Unless you can unless all you're going to do is fight them, right? Your only way back into the game is to fight them. So you build BF Sword so that you can actually
do some damage,
do something so you can at least we can fight them, I can't outpush them, but you're going to, and just hope they make a mistake, right? So in short, I think the answer is if you're winning a lane and you build anything but Runans, on the champions that build it, obviously you're making a mistake because you don't understand why winning the lane was good for you. Right, because winning lane being good for you is now I can go to a different lane and push down another turret. The reason they're doing that is why the other team is making the mistake is the big thing. So people that aren't building Runans are making a mistake. Or if you're even in the lane, maybe you are making a mistake.
It's still correct to get a BF Sword if the lane isn't going to end anytime soon. It's the same thing why you don't buy boots early unless the tower's going to go down, because then you'll need to obviously run the wrap. Because that BF Sword's still going to be more impactful in the laning phase if you and the other enemy ADC are fairly even, because you guys are doing a lot of trading, a lot of fighting, a lot of 2v2s. So the BF Sword is going to be more useful there because you're actually actively fighting someone. You need that flight AD. But if you're ahead and you're trying to push down the tower, kill it, or you already have the tower, and you're trying to just shove the wave in and leave and go do something somewhere else, Hurricane's going to be by and far better in every scenario.
it also like factors into the thing, like especially like lowish MMR, like people just fight all the time, and they're very, and because they fight all the time, the only power that they see is fighting power. Like, okay, this allows me to fight better. You know, BF Sword gives me more damage. Ghostblade gives me more damage. Whereas they don't understand that like fighting is just a part of the game. Like you are getting kills to be able to push freely, and like. Yeah. It's just it's a symptom of probably where you're at, because I believe Summix is highish gold, and like that's probably just people making mistakes in build and not understanding like what do we do when we're ahead. Just like, you know, Contractor said at the very beginning, like they're just making a mistake. They don't understand exactly what's going on. So I think we killed that one, right? Like I think that's pretty good. Yep. So. All right, so the next one, actually, you know what? Contractor hasn't been here. Let's let Contractor read this one.
Not sure how to pronounce this one's name. KMNOP?
Yeah, he's a cool guy. He actually is a long-time listener of the cast, so...
Okay.
And a nice guy.
A long-time listener after 15 episodes.
This dude was listening, like, episode 1, I think. Like, episode 1 or 2.
Yeah, no, he's been listening.
Yeah, he's one of 3 people.
Hey, we'll take it.
Hey, right? Gotta start somewhere. All right, so he writes into us to ask a question. So I'll try not to write you a book this time, winky face. But I did have one follow-up question relating to jungle clears. It would seem to me that there's a difference between auto attack animation canceling and kiting the camp. I make sure to AA cancel to get autos in a little bit faster. And I know if you do this right, you can also kite the camps around to dodge or cancel some of the damage they would do. Stepping at, like, parentheses, stepping out of the monster's AA range right before they animation, parentheses. And I've also practiced this some, but can never seem to fully get the hang of it. Can you guys comment on how to implement this technique? Right. Thank you again for all the tips. Super helpful. I think it will really improve my games. No problem, man.
Cool. Thanks for the question. So, I'm so you start off on this one, and we'll kind of go from there, Projector, because I know like you have some thoughts on this, but like we actually talked about this question a little bit because it came in like later in the week, so.
So, all right. So let's, there is a difference between auto attack animation canceling and kiting a camp. However, auto attack or AA canceling helps you kite the camp better. So it is a tool that helps you kite the camp better. Basically, auto attack animation canceling, basically as soon as you see that if you're playing a melee champion, as soon as the animation and the damage line up, like as soon as that damage is applied, you enter in a new input like a move command, and it will cancel the rest of the animation while still applying the damage, meaning that your auto attack will reset faster and you can do damage quicker. While kiting the camp means that in between auto attacks or in between using abilities, you're walking away from the camp so it's not actively attacking you, which means that you're taking less damage from the camp because it actually physically attacks you less. The benefit to this is good for champions like Kha'Zix, who really don't want to rely on their auto attacks. They want to rely on their abilities. So they walk away and they have the camp chase them until their abilities, like Kha'Zix's Q and his W, are off of cooldown. And then he goes back into range and uses his abilities. So that's why he kites the camp. It's to buy time for his cooldowns to then be able to use them again and continue his clear. While someone like Nocturne, you can kite the camp, but it's not really for health reasons, and actually because you're trying to just auto attack the camp down, like you don't want to be running away, you don't want to be wasting that time. You want to be attacking them and just getting it out of the way. The other purpose of cutting the camp is to move it in a direction, whether it's to make it harder for your enemy to smite away or move it in the direction of your clear, like where you're going to go next. So that would be the other function of kiting your camp.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kha'Zix is a really, like, probably... First off, like, I think Kha'Zix is probably the easiest one to do this. Like, he's a good one to learn it on, okay? Because a good Kha'Zix and a bad Kha'Zix, like, the health of their clear is vastly different. Like, vastly. Because if you're kiting camps properly on Kha'Zix, you kill camps extremely fast and his clear is very healthy. And if you don't kite the camps, you will die to like red buff. I mean, it happens a lot. They actually showed a stat a while back that showed, like, you know, the most, they did some number crunching on which, champions execute the most to what buffs and stuff.
Oh,
and,
Raptors.
Red Raptors is number 1, but red buff is the second killer, right? And I guarantee like almost all of those red buff deaths are to Kha'Zixes, because like, bad Kha'Zixes will go to red buff and they will be at like no health, and then red buff will just like smite them down and kill them. So the biggest thing here is like just start to learn like, why am I attacking the camp like right now? Like, so if you're Kha'Zix, like you don't ever want, like if you could never auto a camp, like if you could never be in auto range for longer than your Q, you would never want to be, because Kha'Zix's autos don't do a ton. They're all right, but they're not like, that's not how he primarily deals damage. It's his Q. So like you're like sort of doing this little dance where it's like, okay, I do the most damage, and because his Q is an auto attack reset, it's even like more pronounced on Kha'Zix. If you want to learn this, just like jungle clear as Kha'Zix for a while in a custom, because you'll learn, like how it works. Also, like leashing the camps. So the piece about leashing the camps, I think, is actually important, because you should be used to this. This is one of those things, we were just talking a minute ago about like muscle memory, like so that you can focus on the macro of the game. Like leashing camps to their maximum range or moving them into bushes, especially if they're buffs, is something that like you don't really think about, but you should just be doing all the time. And you need to get yourself in the habit of doing it, because the one time that you do forget, a J4 is going to like hop over the wall and like flag drag, smite your blue buff away from you and kill you. And you'll be like, man, if I would have just drugged this into the bush, I wouldn't have had a problem. And it happens a lot. Like, so you just want to get in the habit of doing that sort of stuff. And it does save you time. I mean, it's free time. Yeah. Like, and we don't have a ton of like junglers. Like the number one asset that you have is time. And like, you just get it for free if you just literally just click a little further toward the next camp.
Man, the other day I was playing as Nocturne, and I was super low health at blue buff, and I decided to pull it into the bush right next to it, and literally like right as my Q trail disappears off the map, a Lee Sin approaches from the river. But because I and the buff were in the bush, he just assumed that it was already gone, and so he turned around and walked away.
Yep.
But if I had been fighting, yeah, you're right. Like my heart stopped. Like, don't move. Just keep attacking, but don't move. Don't use anything. And he just walked away. But if I had been just clearing it without having kited it to the bush first, it's 100% dead, and he gets blue buff. Oh. Like, it's just kiting really typically only helps you if you do it well.
They're just very efficient.
Just remember, Lee Sin's vision is based on movement.
So like, using the reset timer of the camps is a really valuable resource for a lot of champions, right? Not just for like the efficiency of trading that 1-for-1 auto attack, but it's also when you kite backwards, you're buying time for cooldowns, right? Mm-hmm. So for champions like Lee Sin, stuff like that, where it's like, the energy depletion as well, is like you're always kiting backwards, because you, again, like Kha'Zix, don't do a whole lot of damage to your auto attacks. You do primarily through abilities. So when you kite backwards, you're really buying precious seconds to have those cooldowns come back up, which save you a lot of HP, right? So those big chunks on the camps over and over again.
Well, and then we'll take you to a champion like Vi, who has a passive on her third proc of her W that gives you bonus attack speed. That actually only lasts for just about enough time for you to get 3 more auto attacks off to re-proc her W and continue with the attack speed buff. So if you sit there and kite the camp around, you're going to be lacking that attack speed buff the entire time. It's just going to be terrible. So there are some champions that you really don't want to kite as much with, where a champion like Kha'Zix is probably like the most extreme example of kiting that will like really imprint it in your mind the best, I think.
Kha'Zix is a super good example of like, if you want to learn why like kiting a camp is important and like how much of a difference it makes, it's very pronounced on Kha'Zix, probably more so than any other champion. Maybe another auto attack like the Graves, like
that's what I was gonna say. Graves is another great champion for it.
Graves, you really don't have to take damage from a camp if you don't want to.
Exactly. Like, if you're very good at Graves, like you will literally never get hit by a camp. It's very rare. And then like Kindred is another one. Like you have to. And some people play Quinn, like so. There's auto like the range junglers.
And that's like a good example of when you use abilities correctly for the jungle as well. When you're jungling Maokai or jungling Pantheon or whatever, and the red buff starts his animation to attack you but doesn't hit you yet, you use those abilities to prevent that damage. It's the same thing as kiting or walking backwards, whatever, using the reset timer as a resource, you're using those abilities. They don't just do damage to the camp, they also dodge attacks, or they cancel the buff's attack animation, which is the same thing as kiting kiting the vectors are basically just dodging the entire attack itself. So it's one of those things like once you have level 3 at Pantheon, you stop taking damage from a lot of the bigger camps as well, because you just reset that block timer over and over and over again.
Or someone like
Master Yi does that too.
Yeah.
Or someone like Jax. I see a lot of junglers who will play Jax and they'll use their E before they've attacked the camp. And you're wasting extra damage that you're doing. B, you're also going to block one less auto attack because you're using the E when the camp isn't actually aggroed to you. So you want to auto attack and then immediately press E so that you dodge an extra attack and get the damage bonus. So it's all about damage mitigation. Really, damage mitigation, saving yourself some time for the leash as well. It is a skill that is worth very, 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 very worth having. I almost want to say it's really net. You need it.
Yeah, it is. It is one of those things that like it separates good junglers from bad ones. Like 100%.
Yeah.
Like you when you get really frustrated and you're like their jungler's so good and my jungler sucks so much. A lot of what that is like they just don't know how to kite camps and do small things, because those lead to much larger advantages, like where, especially in situations where you're both going top, like you're both starting bot side and you're both going top, because it's like a Riven versus Fiora lane where it's like, man, whoever gets going is going to
very feast or famine.
Yeah, so you're both going top and you're both on early game junglers. Like the difference of like, hey, I didn't kite this one camp properly, or I did it a little slow, is like a world of difference, because you go up there with a different amount of health, maybe
at a different time too.
Yeah, at a different time. Like, so you're ahead, you're a full second ahead of that guy. And like, dude, people die in a second. I mean, it happens very quickly. And,
I actually had a really good example of this recently when I was sorting by jungle doing Maokai. And I would get level 3 or level 4, then I'd go getting top lane, and the difference between having 60 HP give or take from hitting the camps properly and stuff like that literally saved my life twice in the same game on a gank, because I would gank at like 70% HP, or I'd gank a little bit closer to like 50 to 60 percent of HP, whatever, and then I would go in and then they had enough damage to just kill me, or it didn't kill me. I think it became very, very, very close.
Think about all the times that you've ever done a gank or ever played and you've been within one auto attack of death after the fight. Now imagine if you had taken one more auto attack from a jungle camp before you went for your...
Or how many times somebody lives from a gank at one auto attack away, and imagine that you were there half a second earlier.
Yep.
Like you could have put another auto attack in. And
it's a very good example of that.
It also, the other thing, we talk a lot about like what seemingly small changes do. Like, so things like, them nerfing, like, that's a good like sort of closing point, but like people complain all the time about like small nerfs and like small buffs and like, oh my gosh, like that doesn't mean anything. But like those things, like especially like stuff like Lee's nerf to his R, and like when they buffed his lifesteal on his W, they massively changed the game, especially out of the like more so out of the jungle, I think, than anywhere else, because all of those little changes add up to a ton. Damage in the jungle is a big deal. Like when they nerf base damages in the jungle on initial abilities, it's like, golly, like champions feel so much worse. Like they're about to nerf some stuff on Vi, like a little bit of attack speed and a little bit of attack damage, and like if you just see the nerfs, it's like, these don't matter at all, right? And to a lot of people, they'll never notice it because functionally they didn't change the champion. But like lowering that attack speed from it's literally from 0.625 from 0.644. I mean, it's 0.02, right? And they're lowering her move speed by like 5. But lowering her move speed by 5 is a big deal. Like, it's a big deal in the jungle. So
yeah.
So camps. If you don't know how, go look on YouTube. There's 1,000. If you type how to kite jungle camps on YouTube, but like I can't even imagine the results. Yeah, so that's the jungle, full of micromanagement and boring nonsense like that, right? And bro, kiting these camps is the difference between victory and defeat.
I do think I think people do sometimes simplify because you're just attacking you're just attacking creeps all day. Like there is a lot of depth to the role, even mechanically, as you're clearing camps, especially in the early clears. In the later clears, it really doesn't matter as much, but in the early clears, like that really matters. What you do in the first 5-6 minutes of the game really matters.
And we say that, but like half the time we're not even looking at our champion when we're attacking. Like
that's fair.
I tried to learn jungle not long ago. That was difficult.
What's that?
I said I tried to learn jungle Elise the other day. That was very
hard. Yeah.
The first game, I literally didn't gank once and was still behind. So I'll tell you how that one went. Yeah, exactly. And the second and third games I played, it became a lot better once I got the mechanics down pretty pat. And I was able to gank a few times like that, but even ganking that a couple times put me behind.
My Elise is really funny because I have like a weird power curve on Elise where like I'm really good early, and then I'm like terrible in the mid game, and then I'm really good at the end of the game because I understand like what I'm supposed to do, and I know how to like play her. So like there's this weird like fall off in the middle of the game where I'm just horrific, like where I'm just like I don't know what to do now.
That's one of the strange things. I want to see from Riot a couple more preemptive nerfs when they do big jungle changes, right? Because there's times like when like they'll like the jungle is super tough, no one can survive it. Like only these really heavy sustained junglers can really live through it, and then they'll buff other champions to make them be able to survive that tough jungle. And then they'll go through a huge jungle rework, and then they didn't touch those champions that had been buffed previously.
Yeah.
So now instead of having a tough jungle to deal with, they have an easy jungle to deal with in the same kit, same numbers. So you have that guy who ganks always at full health, and everyone else.
Dude, look. What
50-60%?
All I'm trying to say is there's a bunch of numbers, okay? Like
it is a
lot of numbers to pay attention to. Sometimes, like, come on, man, like we're busy like making skins and cashing checks. Like we don't.
This is $1 billion a year industry.
Yeah, and that's even more numbers. Like,
come on, man, like
that's a lot of zeros.
Money, like that's the more money we make, the more time it takes to count it all. Like
exactly. Jeez,
a lot
man,
of work, dude. Like, ease up. What do you want? Like,
all right, you got me.
So who?
I want you to also spend $1,000 a week to wrap up your money.
Yeah, I think personally, like I really like the auto attack animation question, but I think that Summix wins this week because that's actually a really good point that I actually wouldn't have like. I kind of inherently knew, but like I think you explained it in a great way. And I think this is a great question that led to like a bunch of discussion. So.
Well, and I like the idea of like what to do while you're being ahead. Like it thinks a lot more about your decision making with your item builds. So, and items are not something that people think about enough.
Yep.
So
congratulations, Summix. In case anybody was wondering, every week, if you don't know why we're trying to pick a winner, so every week we give away $10 in RP, so you can buy a sweet skin or a champion, something that you don't have before, just by sending in a question. You don't have to do anything else to enter. All you have to do is send in a question to summonersift@gmail.com, and we do that, every week, and, give us your summoner name. If you're EU, we have figured out ways to get that to people, so don't worry about it. We can... if you're from far away, we'll still get you your RP. So, congratulations to Summix this week. Any final thoughts? Let's get Contractors first because he was omitted from a good portion of the boring jungle cast.
Final thoughts. Warwick is, in my opinion, a very large success. Very happy to see him.
Yeah.
Very, very super. I don't know if we talked about this before on a previous podcast, but I'm very, very satisfied with the 10-man system in the LCS. I think it has changed a whole lot, and I think it's the best change to competitive they have ever made.
I 100% agree.
Yeah. Agree.
Yeah, 10-ban is awesome. Good job.
But, I also agree that Summix wins this one. Very, very solid. Very solid question. It's not leads into what you're supposed to do, but why you're supposed to do it as well, which I really like.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And that's all I got.
What do you got, Projector?
My thing is playing overpowered champions, and we're going to talk about this, I think, on a later episode. But just because a champion is overpowered doesn't mean you're going to win your games.
So I never played this word, but I hear he's OP, so I'm gonna give.
Yeah, so I'm gonna play him and win. It doesn't really work that way.
You build AP on Warwick. Warwick, right? Yeah.
I had a very sad example of this happen twice earlier today, actually. Where I played Zyra twice, and they did that thing where they want to pick Misfortune, but they don't know why you're supposed to counter it and what you're supposed to do to counter it. So we just had a really awkward matchup where she picks Misfortune to counter me, and then I'm just shitting on her the entire laning phase. And then afterwards, I'm just like, why? I was curious. I was like, hey, why did you pick her? She's like, oh, well, it counters Zyra. And I was like, okay, well, why does it counter Zyra? And they're like, I don't know. And I was like,
oh, the pros
exactly.
Pros
like,
do it. It's good. MF's good. MF support is good. Don't play MF. Don't you pick MF support, my guy.
Don't you do it.
Don't you do it.
I love how we're back to like what we were first talking about MF. Don't you do it. We told you once.
Don't you bring it back. Oh, golly, like I thought that was going to be gone by now. But here we are. Back again, like, but you know why it's back? It's back because of the 10-ban system.
Yeah,
like that's a subtle thing, like this weird old nonsense of like Zyra Ashe is good lane again. It's like what? Like, what world is this? Like, why are we here again? No.
Season 4? Was that season 4?
It was, yeah. Cloud9 and Cloud9 is like undefeated. Like, what is happening?
Yep, this is happening.
It's season 4.
It's happening.
Oh god.
High's back in the LCS.
Yeah. I'm so happy. This is really immature of me, but I'm so happy that they used fly as their in-game tag so that their top laners fly balls and then the laners fly high. Like, I just think that's hilarious.
It's pretty fun.
I don't even care that I'm a kid about it. Like, I just think that's awesome.
Into it because they wanted to call it C9, but they're like, well, I guess we can't call it C9. What are we going to do?
Yeah. So, all right. Bet said final thoughts.
Final thoughts. So leave Rengar alone. Like, come on. I just got good at him again, and you just take him away. Like, I gave in and I started playing him again, and I was like dumping on fools, and like, now you're gonna take away the only. Just like, it's fine if you nerf his damage, but don't mess with his W. Like, his W's the fun part about him right now. Like, that's what makes him fun.
That's the only thing that gives him anything interesting.
It's the only thing that's interesting about him. Don't take it away.
Not him just mashing Q 50 times. Mashing R to mash Q 50 times. Mashing Q 50 times.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, please don't take it away. Please.
Which is funny because we were actually worried about it at first, so I think it's funny.
Just leave it.
But
just leave it on him. It's fine. All right, guys. Thank you so much. That's Summoner Sift episode 16. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Good night, guys.